Good morning. Dear students, today we are to deal with a Shakespearean comedy, Merchant of Venice. In BA first year, in second year and third year as well, in paper first, we are having a drama. In the last unit of paper first, a drama is there all 3 years. This year, we are the beginners. So, when English literature is to be concerned, when we talk of English literature, there is one name which comes at the top, which we often heard, which the non-literary students also know very well. The name has become an icon. It's William Shakespeare, the greatest of the Elizabethans. William Shakespeare, the man who is much known for his greater plays, though he was a poet, dramatist, man of theatre, a player. In his own dramas, he played roles, and much more. An all-time favorite. As far as reading and writing is concerned, he shall be remembered for all times, all places. Today, after this pandemic attack, again in the second phase, after this attack of the most worst invisible enemy so far the human civilization has faced, we are again in this virtual notion of having some kind of academia at our fingertips as we need as a part of our examination pattern. Shakespeare is basically known for his greatest tragedies, but as we are the beginners, we shall be introduced with a comedy, a lighter play. Shakespeare, the man of second half of 16th century, the man who lived a very changing phases kind of a life. He faced ups and downs. He almost traveled in nooks and corners as well. When he started writing, when he was based in the city of London, after his formal schooling in grammar school, and he was searching for the jobs, he started writing plays. He started with historical dramas. Because the time Shakespeare lived in, it was the time when England was at its top. Means the entire world was British-centric, we may say. Britishers started traveling all over the world. We witness Vasco da Gama here, Columbus there in the American parts, though he went for India earlier. But destiny led him to the American parts. So Galileo's telescope and so many explorations, geographical, scientific. England was at its top. The only thing which was concerned with the military power or the naval power or the muscular power, it was achieved with the only navy which was confronting England. It was a Spanish one, and English troops, they drowned the biggest of the naval ships of Spain, Armada. So this naval expedition, it led Britain to be at the top. So people were very happy about that nation. People were so, what shall I say, so proud of their power, proud of their nation. Nationality, nationalism was a kind of a feel they might have at that time. So what people wanted exactly, That was the part of the concern with Shakespearean writings. He started writing with historical plays. Why? Because people just wanted to see their glorious past, see their historical past, want to travel back in their glories and greatness. So Shakespeare took notice of that thing. He was having a piercing eye. He keenly noticed what people exactly wanted. And he started with historical dramas. See, one thing I better say before this, before his writing drama parts, Queen Elizabeth, she was patron. Patron means she gave all that to the writers and the artists, the painters. These finer arts and literatures, they were given government stipends, they were given salaries at their homes while pursuing their art and its uh, phenomenal parts. So artists were paid at their homes. So they were having no problem with their daily bread and butter. That was the best thing. And Elizabeth was patron. So Shakespeare got patronage, the political patronage from that time British political head. And Queen Elizabeth was a lover of arts, or we can say this second half of 16th century, 1550 to 1600. So this second half of 16th century, which is time of Queen Elizabeth on English crown, and we may call it the golden times in British history. So Shakespeare was having no problem with his own standpoint to go for livelihood. So he started with writing of certain plays. Though he was a poet, he was a sonneteer. 2 sonnets are there in our syllabus. But not as a poet, but as a dramatist, he is much known. The sonnets prescribed in our syllabus, more than 150 sonnets are there. So Shakespeare as a dramatist now started coming into limelight. As a dramatist, he started writing historical dramas. Then he turned to comedies, tragicomedies, tragedies. But his reputation, his popularity, his fame, his name is known to the entire world. So this planetary influence of Shakespeare, it's due to his 4 greatest tragedies. You might be knowing the names because most of the tragedies, they are video clipped in Bollywood and Hollywood as well. The 4 greatest tragedies by Shakespeare, they are Hamlet, Macbeth, King Lear, and Othello. So they must be at your tips. When you are to comment on in any of his dramas, whether it's the reference part or the Christian part, you don't forget to mention his 4 greatest tragedies. Because if Shakespeare is mentioned, his tragedies are to be mentioned. If there is a scope to write, if you find space to fill in, you better mention these 4 greatest tragedies by Shakespeare, because tragedies are on one side, the entire Shakespeare is on the other side. So Shakespearean credit to the literary world is dependent on 4 greatest tragedies. He wrote more than 36 plays, or he was a playwright, one of the most popular dramatists of the world literatures even. So we are to deal with a comedy by Shakespeare, and that is The Merchant of Venice. This comedy, or his other comedies like As You Like It, Midsummer Night's Dream, Twelfth Night, there are a number of comedies. There are mixed ones, tragic comedies where we find certain tragic scenes. This comedy particularly, The Merchant of Venice, Uh, I would like to uh, say one thing which is all the more known to the literary students. Shakespeare was the greatest of the dramatists, but one thing was there, people blame him, critics blame him. Critics have certain questions raised against Shakespeare. What was that? Shakespeare is known for uh, stealing out, for the thefts. Uh, you can call him a thief in very common words, because he borrowed certain characters, certain stories from the outside sources. For an example, if I am to say his greatest tragedies, you must be knowing because Elizabethan period is there in our syllabus. As far as literary history is concerned, we are to deal with Elizabethan age also, along with neoclassical age. In Elizabethan times, there was a tragedian, there was a dramatist who wrote greater tragedies. His name, you must be knowing, I have already stated it in our regular classes, Christopher Marlowe. Christopher Marlowe. He wrote his tragedies before Shakespeare. And you will see there are 4 tragedies. It's a coincidence. And 4 tragedies are by Shakespeare. Marlowean tragedies, which are titled like Edward II, Tamurlan, Jew of Malta, Dr. Faustus. 4 tragedies by Marlowe, 4 tragedies by Shakespeare. This may be the coincidence, but tragedies are having a title of one person. One person means who is above average, a character-centered drama. 4 tragedies: Edward II, Temurlang of Indian history, Edward II, Tamurlan, Jew of Malta, and Dr. Faustus. The same nomenclature is there as far as the titles are given by Shakespeare. Othello, Macbeth, King Lear, and Hamlet. So the titles, the patterns even. So Shakespeare borrowed certain major formats, forms, ideas. Why I am talking of that while having a kind of an introductory or the basic or the informative or the sidelined, when we are to look from the mountain top to a particular drama, we are to discuss the rest of the things which are concerned with that particular drama. There is a character in The Merchant of Venice. That character is Shylock. Shylock is a Jew. Jew, you must have known this very word in Christian mythology, in Christendom, in Western parts. We have this word Jew, Yehudi. You must have heard of it in Hindi. At the time of Second World War, how they were tortured. Those Jews means business-minded, highly professional, or professionalism at a level where people start hating that. That kind of a creed is there. We call them Jews. There is a villainous character, Jew, and his name is Shylock. This character of Shylock, it is seen as if it is taken from Jew of Malta. The same character. So Shakespeare is blamed for so many things, but undoubtedly, we don't have any doubts, he is one of the greatest of the poets, greatest of the writers, greatest of the artists, greatest of the men of theatre. He established the Globe theatre. He was not having that much kind of an amount to pay for, so he took some part of his own, and then he was a shareholder. Then he distributed shares among the people, and he established. This was a kind of a challenge in those times, because dramas primarily were not written for the reading purpose. They were written for performances. They were for the stagecraft, or they were to be performed at several occasions. So people wanted to see their glorious past on the stage, and they are to gratify their ego. So that kind of a feel was there when they are people around the world, and English people were scattered all around the world. Even here, Warren Hastings camp, East India Company was established in those times. So you will not believe, in fact, that Britishers were having that kind of zeal, that kind of feel, that kind of attitude, because they were the people who were searching for, who were hunting for certain explorations, discoveries in almost all areas concerned. So, this kind of a dealing with Shakespearean dramas particularly, we are to go with number of comedies, but this comedy particularly, when we talk of The Merchant title, if you go for the title, The Merchant of Venice, the Italian backgrounds are there. Italy is the root for arts. You can see Renaissance. It started in Italy. And why in Italy? Because right from the long back past, we had two major civilizations in the Western world. They were Greeks and Romans. So Greeks, we follow three major tragedians: Sophocles, Euripides, Aeschylus, the Pindar, the great poet Pindar, who derived out from Greek tragedy. We have all-time epic writer Homer, wrote Iliad and Odyssey on the Trojan War. Aristotle, Plato, Socrates, they all were Greek philosophers. Aristophanes was a comedian. Those were the Greeks. Romans were having a parallel dynasty. They were having their own empire. And we must have heard of Julius Caesar, Augustus Caesar. We will see it in neoclassicism, because Dryden and Pope, the representative neoclassical poets, they followed Romans, the greater Romans, Romans of King Augustus Caesar's time. Augustus Caesar, Julius Caesar, our months July and August, they are after those Roman kings, Julius Caesar and Augustus Caesar, July and August. So, and after Augustus Caesar, we call Dryden's as Augustan age, also the age of reason. So, the greater Roman Empire, Roman roots were there in the Italian parts. Rome is now capital of Italy. One more thing is attached to this particular part is that the most of the Western world is having a kind of a belief, a religious belief. Religion has been an integral part of human civilization right from its threshold. And we cannot avoid or be away, or we are forced to, or we are to, whatever the point is. But religion is always there, embedded very deep into our concern, into the human world. So, as we in the Asia, in the South Asia, in Indian parts, or in rest of the world as well, we see certain religious beliefs like Buddhist, Jainism is there, Hinduism is there, Islam is there. Likewise, Christians are the people who are following Jesus Christ. Christendom is there, Christianity is there in the Western world. So, there is the head of Christianity in human world, in the world of man, in mankind, the greatest or the biggest, or at the hierarchical top in religion, in Christianity particularly, we call him Pope. Pope, you must have heard of this name, Pope. Pope used to live there in the Italian parts, in Rome. So, it is a land of arts, it is a land of think tanks. So, people are looking for some guidance, some motivation, some kind of an emotional attachment, an intellectual favor from the Romans, from the religious authorities. That's why Renaissance started from Italian parts. Renaissance is a literary term we are having this year. So, Petrarch is there, certain painters are there, Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Raphael. So a boom came, a kind of movement came, kind of a rush of change it came. It didn't start from one day or it didn't start, end up with the other day. It was almost a period of 150 years, and it is came to England as well via France, because England is an island, all surrounded by waters. So whatever came to England, it came through France. So it's almost a period of 150 years, 150 years, and we call it Renaissance, rebirth, reawakening, rethinking, a beginning, newness is there. So Venice is that city, Italian part. So we shall find a background, we shall find the Italian names, Italian nomenclature, Italian parts, Italian geography, Italian politics. So Italian background, everything is colored in Italian, that kind of a thing. We might be having certain religious parts, their social setups, their political setups, their judiciary, their behavioral parts, their customary notions, their traditional frameworks. Everything what is to be discussed in this play, that has to be Italian. Italian means it's having some kind of a greatness, a grandeur is there, some glory is there, certain religious fervor is there, because its roots are there, Christianity's roots are there in the Italian parts. So, while looking at the title itself, we are having two things, because it may be having a kind of a religious setup, or there is one word, the merchant. So English people were in a kind of mercantile favor. They traveled all along with the geographical discoveries. They almost traveled to all areas. So they were in search of a kind of a business transaction. We call it mercantile. We call it commercial negotiations. We call it. They were the people who were very fast in today's term, what we say. They were the professionals. They were the people eager to know the rest of the world. So they were not people who are to come empty-handed. They took all that what they can, wherever they went. You don't believe? Still our Koinur is there. So they did it in the name of colonization. You must have heard in history, in your schooling, in the basic parts of history at class 10th or 9th, even 11th, 12th, with having certain options for history. Colonization, we call it Upniveshikaran, Upnivesh, colony. India was a British colony. So in the name of colonization, they took business favors, business gains. They were not having this loss anywhere, because no one was to deal with the kind of a negotiation. They were very sharp people, but their work culture was too good. They were very honest to their duties. So we still witness British education, still certain imprints are there. Macaulay, what we say. Now we are having certain experiments.